KEF Connect. Conversations that matter. Tune in every week for interviews with industry trendsetters and community changemakers that will instill inspiration and ignite action. Visit www.kefholdings.com and click KEF Connect to listen.
Welcome back to the KEF Connect podcast series that is making a difference. We are connecting listeners to the trendsetters and trailblazers which are creating an incredible impact in their industries and communities. The wellness season is truly on a roll at the moment, and the guests and the series just keep getting better and better. I'm very, very excited and lucky to be joined by two incredible women around this table. And today's episode, we are talking about crazy beauty standards. The fight against beauty standards truly do exist. Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? That is why we are here to discuss it. And these two ladies that have joined me today are just incredible people and incredible, successful women here in the region. I'm joined by Natasha Zaki, who is founder of Glossy Make Up and Glossy Lounge, and Lauren O'Connell, who is the beauty editor of Cosmopolitan and Grazia Middle East. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Very, very happy to have you both here. Now, of course, I've introduced you, but I'd love to hand it over to you and allow you to introduce yourself to the listeners. So, Natasha, over to you.
Hi, thank you for having me. So, I have been in the region for about 7 years. Makeup has always been a big passion. It's like sort of running through my blood, makeup and creativity. When I got to Dubai, my friends pushed me to have a beauty brand and to start it. And so I did. And so I have Glossy Make Up that is born in Dubai. And now I am developing a new project called Glossy Lounge, which is a sustainable women's wear, unisex, kids wear brand.
Amazing.
Which is something very, very exciting that I've been working on lately.
Yeah.
So I have a big entrepreneurial spirit, and yeah, I love Dubai.
And you're a busy, busy lady from what it
busy all
sounds
the
like. Over to Lauren. Lauren, great to have you here. If you could introduce yourself.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And yes, my name is Lauren O'Connell, and I am a beauty editor at Grazia Middle East Magazine, as well as Cosmopolitan Middle East Magazine. But actually, my journey didn't start with beauty. Although I've always loved beauty, I come from a family that really valued the sciences. And I have a bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering with a concentration in biomechanics and also a master's of science. So my background was pretty heavy in the numbers and formulas, and the beauty was always still within me. Fast forward to moving to Dubai, which was 13 years ago. I actually moved here pregnant. And I had my daughter, followed by my son 2 years later, and I then was just in a blur of mommy mode for years until they really didn't need me as much anymore. And I started dabbling on Instagram with just writing about beauty things. And before I knew it, I started writing Before I knew it, I became a contributing beauty writer for Cosmopolitan Middle East Magazine, which was, I have to say, I did harass the editor-in-chief a little bit and saying, I should write for you, till finally she said, okay, then write something. And it just grew and grew, and now I am the beauty editor for both magazines. So I'm pretty busy. I also am a beauty editor for a celebrity dermatologist in Los Angeles. Amazing. And so I am pretty busy in the beauty world.
Well, I can tell. That's why we are just even luckier that you both have made time for this. So thank you so much for that. Now, I know this is a big question to kick off the episode with. And of course, there's no right or wrong. It's just your opinions. But could you please define for me, what is your definition of crazy beauty standards, Natasha?
So a totally crazy beauty standard for me is women having to be like a Barbie and one size fits all. I feel like, especially growing up, there was a big pressure on, sort of like the perfect girl and the perfect sort of size. Back then, it wasn't about, what it is now. It was really, to be very, very slim. And if you weren't, you were kind of like not. So, but I mean, now I still feel like there is a big pressure to be perfect, like perfect hair, perfect skin, and we're not. And there isn't enough out there to, sort of like encourage women to just sort of like be themselves. Like you can sort of work on your well-being, but you don't have to be absolutely perfect. So I feel like it's a crazy kind of world out there with Instagram and everything, like
to
be
totally
picture perfect.
It is.
So I think, but now through the pandemic, we're kind of like coming out of that a bit. Like there's more awareness on, you know, imperfections being beautiful and, you know, inclusivity and different sizes. And that's something I really want to portray as well through the brands.
It's so important. It's so important. You touched on it, the kind of like influence of social media as well. And women are held to such high beauty standards that I feel that men aren't as much. And now I guess with social media for children, the access for children to social media is putting that kind of standards and pressure on them as well. I mean, Lauren, over to you. What would your personal definition of crazy beauty standards be?
Well, to kind of piggyback off of what Natasha just said, I remember for years and years and years counting calories and being so extreme with my physical regimen, exercising at the gym twice a day just to kind of maintain that ideal body shape. And who was I really doing that for? Was it for me or was it for other people? And one of the things that I think is just an absolute crazy beauty standard is seeking approval for who you are in your own beauty from outside sources. And that ties into social media and trying to get the number of likes, trying to being obsessed with how many views you've gotten on your videos, to filtering your photos to the point where you're unrecognizable. I mean, with apps like Facetune and so many other ones out there, you can change your face shape, change your nose shape, change your eyes, change your eye color, to the point where you become this person you're not. And how does that really make you feel on the inside? Now, I love to edit, and I am totally guilty of doing some editing here and there and using filter, brightening a photo. That's fine. But when it gets to the point where you're just sort of this blurry kind of ghost face of who you actually are, to me, that is an absolute crazy beauty standard.
And I couldn't agree more. And I'd love to kind of dive into that deeper a bit later. I guess, you know, I think about the history of beauty standards and we look back into when we were kids and, you know, what we were kind of held to then. I remember being a kid and looking at magazines, looking at music videos, thinking, oh my goodness, I have to be stick thin to be accepted by society. And that was the norm then. And now I'm a 30-year-old woman and I look at these same magazines and I look at these same music videos and you see these voluptuous, curvy ladies. These standards have really grown, evolved, changed over time. And that's really hard to keep up with. What is your personal experience with that been, Natasha?
Well, it's been since it has been more about the voluptuous body. It suited me. It suited me more. I felt more comfortable. I think when I reached my 20s, because I was like, oh, okay, that's better now. You know, it's about the curves, the hips, you know, but still, it's still picture perfect. You know, that small waist to hip ratio, and but definitely as well. Growing up, I had a big issue with what was acceptable then and what was liked and put out in the media was just so thin. But I just feel that it's evolved, and now I feel like it will evolve more into acceptance of different body shapes, and even on the catwalk it's like that now, where you're going to see, you know, different bodies, different shapes, sizes. So I feel like we're moving slowly in the right direction. It's basically probably because of women, mental health, you know, trying to have a positive impact on the youth, not a detrimental one to, you know, women's security, like feeling of sort of like self-acceptance and
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like back in the day we tried to fit in to the standard, and now as women we're creating our own standards, and that's the most beautiful thing about this day and age. I mean, when it comes to your own personal experience, Lauren, I know earlier you mentioned, you know, you were counting calories when you were younger. What impact did that have on you now, and what changed in your story for you to become a lot more comfortable with yourself?
I think I just went through a period where I began to accept myself more. And I just felt like, you know what, I don't have to be a certain way to approve of myself. And that took a long time and a lot of undoing of sort of these learned beliefs. And I do attribute a lot of that to what we were talking about earlier with the media, with being a Barbie. Also, I would include blonde and tan in that because granted, I'm brunette and I'm so incredibly fair. And I remember just thinking, why can't I get tanned? And I come from a family with golden tans. So for me, it was this standard that I could never reach to because my body physically would not allow for those things. Also, just something I was just thinking of as we were chatting earlier is one of the things I've really noticed change over time too. And I remember being around probably 5, 6 years old, going to the grocery store with my dad before school. We would get up really early and do the weekly shop. And I remember I would always look at the different cosmetics in, the little drugstore makeup aisle. And I remember thinking to myself, why are there so many shades of like a beige, a white type of foundation, and there's only one deep shade? And I remember thinking that was so bizarre because there was more than just one color. And the colors they were so slightly different from each other. And I remember thinking that's really not fair. And, nowadays we have brands coming out with ranges with so many different shades and also different undertones to be more inclusive and to represent all different women and how we all look. And to me, it's a bit almost bizarre that that's only happening now. And I do remember thinking about it, that I'm almost 40, so 35 years ago.
Wow.
So, and I do attribute that also to the power of social media. And I do think also with different body shapes and also different ethnicities, you see more in the media world and in magazines and whatnot. And that is through the power of social media. So I do think that the social media also is a great thing.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you both for sharing your personal insights into this topic. I think what's happened over time is now as grown adults, we can have a logical kind of mindset on this topic. But, for children, they haven't had the experience, they haven't had the conversations, they just see what they see and they just go along with that. How important is it for people like ourselves? I mean, you both are in the industry and definitely impacting it in positive ways, but how can we all as women, men as well, hold ourselves accountable in order to allow children to know how important self-love is, acceptance of exactly how we are is so important, while still battling the external bubble that we call the beauty standard industry. What do you think, Natasha?
Well, I think it's really important to educate kids on self-love and, and loving yourself first and from within and doing things that make you feel good. And it's not all about the exterior appearance. It's about, sort of building the bricks from within and making sure that what you do, who you hang out with, and it's important to your health and your mental well-being. And I feel like beauty is definitely an inside job, and sort of keeping kids and the youth away from toxic social media. So sort of maybe certain accounts. I'm not a mother yet, but I think mothers could sort of advise their children on what's positive and what's negative. And also having more accounts, brands, and people that are spreading positive awareness about, about sort of beauty from within, rather than just focusing on the perfect hair and skin and colour and shape and size and whatnot. So
it's interesting. What you're saying also is it's less about the product. It's the messaging behind it and what it stands for. I mean, Lauren, you have beautiful children and you yourself are a mother, so you could give us a great insight into this. When it comes to your children, you yourself first-handedly, how do you kind of keep that message across to them?
So I have taken the approach of, granted, this is thinking back when I was a child, I could be so sneaky. And whatever my parents said don't do, I of course did it. So I took the approach with my kids of, you know what, see it and let's talk about it. And my daughter and I'm the type of mom where she can come to me with any question and she'll never be judged. We'll talk about it, and she knows that my job being her mom is actually to support her and to help educate her to kind of navigate through the early years of life. That's how I've just taken the role of as a parent. And so while I'm not the greatest disciplinarian, I am great for talking about real things. And even sometimes her friends will ask me and I'll say, all right, you know what, you need to talk to your mom about this because I don't want to get myself into trouble here. But she knows she can come and talk to me about anything. So we do look at the crazy filters. We do talk about size a lot. And we talk about accepting people. And we also talk about how instead of just saying self-love, we kind of go into like, what does that mean? Like, what is the inner work? So she, in my opinion, is the most connected 12-year-old to who she is. And she's very strong and she's very, she really pushes forward in life. And it's because she has a great sense of self. Whereas I think when I was growing up, it was a different era. I had a different type of parents, but, you know, I was always kind of looking on the external for approval versus now. And I think a lot of kids are more like this now. They kind of are more starting with themselves and then secondary going outside of themselves. So for me, it's going to be there. It's not going to change overnight. So she may as well see it and we'll talk about it rather than me telling her she can't do it and then she's going to do it anyways. That's how I've looked at it.
No, it's really important to have these discussions. And Natasha, you actually touched on this earlier about, you know, social media and the impact that has had. If we could just like go a bit deeper into that. I mean, of course, it's such a huge part of the beauty industry. You can't live with it. You can't live without it.
You can't get away from it.
No, you can't. It's a blessing and a curse in a way.
Yeah.
So social media, how important is it to, you mentioned this earlier, follow the right accounts, follow the right people, especially, say, even for personal consumption, but also when it comes to the business side of things as well?
Yeah, so I think for the business side, it's really important to just be putting out the right message. Definitely, like we touched on, the messaging, having different kind of models, and also you really need it in terms of having a beauty brand. You really need to get your product to go viral, to get people to, you know, like it, touch it, feel it. But yeah, it's just about sort of like enhancing your beauty in your daily routine. Personally, I feel like it's important to follow entrepreneurial women, sort of like inspiring women, inspiring beauty accounts, lounge accounts, whatever, you know, news. It's important to have sort of like a balance of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But, I do find like it's, we're going more into that direction now, which is good. It's also awareness of social media and the impact it's having on us. I think definitely through the pandemic when our eyes were kind of glued to Instagram and nothing else to do.
Yeah.
We were at home searching for all my inspiration really comes from, you know, in terms of, I look a lot at online magazines, Instagram for inspo, trending products, beauty influencers, and but I've been obsessed with the real ones, you know, the raw ones, the unedited ones, the unfiltered ones, and I've been learning how to develop myself and my brand and my skills and what I don't want to do and what I do want to do for the future. So I've been trying to also go through that process of
personal and professional.
Completely happy with what I'm putting out there and in a personal way and a business way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think that's so important in a weird way as well. The personal and the business always collide. There's a blurred line there, isn't there? Lauren, I mean, when it comes to the beauty magazine world, I mean, you're the perfect person to talk to, especially in this region. How has it kind of evolved, I guess, with what Natasha mentioned, which was the pandemic, with social media now becoming so prevalent? How has, I guess, your approach to these beauty standards changed over time?
Well, I mean, when you look at what Cosmo originally was, it really was a magazine for women in the USA, and it catered to more of an exclusive, I think. Although they probably would have said it's inclusive, it was a lot of white women on the cover and lots of skinny women, and that's just what it was. And now the Cosmo overall has completely gone into a different direction of more inclusiveness. And here in the UAE, what I love about Cosmo is we're diving so deep into kind of the Arab world, where it's not just a Western magazine that's out here, it's now a magazine for every single person. And there's lots of talk about the different ethnicities, different nationalities, and it's a beautiful kind of I don't know what's the right word, almost like a blur of just everything together. And I think that that's so incredibly important because anyone can look at the magazine and see that they're represented. And we really work hard to continue to put that out there, and that's what we love to do. So, you know, that to me is just a huge change that's happened. And I just find that for myself, I don't know what it is. I wonder if either of you ladies have done this before, but I will be on Instagram, shut it off, and then I instantly go and click on it, and it goes right back on. And I'm thinking, what has happened to me? Like, it's like I'm just on autopilot, you know? It's scary. And so for me, when I'm looking at what I curate on my feed, what I like to see, it's a lot of empowering quotes. I also like to see a lot of spiritual things.
I love that too.
Yeah, I just like, there's certain accounts like Moon Omens I just love. And also I love, of course, the beauty aspect of it, but I've always gravitated more towards educational beauty versus just the consumable, you know, super filtered, you know, makeup beat type thing. I love to actually learn something off of it.
Interesting. I've definitely noticed actually since the pandemic, my consumption of social media has completely changed. I used to follow people who I thought looked good, and then I would see that, hang on, that's not reality. That's not real. And you're right. The pandemic literally led us all to kind of just look at ourselves a bit more, and more than anything, especially now when we were all just lazing around in our homes and there was no such thing as wearing heels, wearing makeup, doing our hair. We all looked a mess, but it was an amazing mess. It was a bliss. This is something we actually spoke about before we started the episode, and that was plastic surgery. And the reason I'm bringing it up, because of course beauty standards changing all the time, but there are certain people in the media, some of the most famous people in the world that have had plastic surgery, have openly said they've had plastic surgery. I personally think it's such a beautiful thing that they felt confident enough to talk about it, because I'm aware a lot of people don't say that they've changed anything when they clearly have. What are your views on plastic surgery versus beauty standards versus self-love? Big question, I know. Big question.
Well, I don't have a problem at all with plastic surgery. As long as, I mean, it's the doctor that should tell you if you're, you know, give you sort of like a mental health screening. You're doing this because you need to do it. Either you need to do it because you have, you know, something aesthetically sort of not quite right. Maybe you've lost a lot of weight. Maybe you've been born with something that you would like to change and it would make you feel a lot better. It's a personal choice. So in terms of, as long as it's with the right doctor who has, you know, a good approach, a clean sort of practice, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it will enhance your sort of your self-love if you're really bothered about something. For example, I know that Iranian women, they often like to have a nose job, and it's just something that's so normal in the community and the Arab world. It's over here it's a lot more accepted, and women sort of brag about it between each other, like, I've done this, have you done that? I've done some lipo, I've done a nose job, this one is really good. You know, a little bit of nip tuck or Botox filler. I don't really see a problem with it, and it's really, you know, as long as remember when the whole lip filler thing was sort of a trend, and then girls were doing it on social media with a bottle.
Yes, like
that,
a lip pump.
That was terrible, and that happened from Kylie actually.
Yes.
That was kind of like a bit scary. So yeah, I think when you're so famous, you've got to be really careful with the messaging you're putting out there to the youth. Like some things have just gone the wrong way. But on the offset to that, a lot of good things happened, you know, for her. But it was kind of, that's crazy. That was a crazy beauty trend and standard. But personally, I don't see anything wrong with it as long as everything is done in a balanced, measured way. You want to nip tuck something with a good doctor, it's normal.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. It's like how men have, you know, hair plugs if they've gone bald early, and then often men judge women for wanting to do a little bit here and there, or she's not natural, or she's this, that. But no, actually, you also put hair gel in. You also do, you know, you can do hair plugs. There's also, I mean, it's obviously a lot more popular in the female sort of with females, but it's because there's a lot more pressure on us.
Yes.
So, sometimes I just don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No, absolutely not. You're right. It is absolutely a choice, and I do also think you're right. It's a cultural thing in many aspects. And I was saying earlier, I do feel like here in this region, it's a lot more normalized, which is, in my opinion, great to see, because I think that if there is something that you would like to change about yourself and it's a personal choice and you believe it is better for your well-being or your mental health, then absolutely, no one should stop you as long as it's done in a safe manner. Lauren, what is your opinion on this?
Well, I feel that our bodies are our own and they're our canvas, and we can choose to wear makeup, we can dye our hair, and we can also get plastic surgery if we want. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to who we are and what we want to do. This kind of streamlines with what I was saying earlier about my approach with social media with my children, where I believe knowledge is power. It's going to be there no matter what. Women are going to want to change things about their bodies. So if we at least put the power out there to them, give them the power of, educating them, and this is what, you should expect, and let's make sure you're in a mentally good place before we start going into this. I think that that's a great thing. What kind of the stereotype that I think a lot of people think about plastic surgery is you're going to instantly look like the cat lady. And when plastic surgery is done well, you don't even know.
Yeah.
So there's lots of women that have it, but you don't know because it's not so overtly obvious, because they went to the right doctor, like Natasha was saying. They did their research. And I think that that's a great thing.
Okay, ladies, when it comes to the beauty industry, of course, you two are both insiders. Me being an outsider, I do have my ideas and stereotypes of the industry in itself. And when it comes to, of course, blockbuster movies, I base my opinions off of that, unfortunately, but we are where we are. Especially movies like Devil Wears Prada, they give you a bit of an insight into the beauty industry, the fashion industry. All I see is kind of negative, judgmental individuals within these industries. Could you give me your personal experiences on this and how important it is to surround yourselves with people who are actually looking at the inner beauty as well as the outer?
Yes. Well, my personal experience has been that it's been quite uncomfortable. I remember the beginning of my career, I was assisting Pat McGrath in London, Milan, and New York.
Wow.
Yeah. And the backstage environment was really tough for me. Like, I felt very much uncomfortable, like an outsider, because all the makeup artists, like, God forbid you'd even wear makeup, and I was wearing makeup. That everyone was like makeupless, like hair in a bun, hoodie on, and then the models. It was quite difficult for me, because it was just like, felt like a more homey and sort of like a softer personality, and I was in this harsh, judgy environment. That I remember, when I came to Dubai, I was like, right, I'm going to stop that industry. And when I came here, I loved like working with Emiratis and being in a different kind of like makeup world vibe. When it comes to makeup and beauty events, as you know, you need your buddy.
Yeah.
Like, you and I would get on and be like, about the inner, the outer beauty, the inner more so reflecting out. Because it's judgy here, especially about what you wear, what brands you have, the latest, and the better sort of dressed you are, I feel, or well groomed, the more people want to get to know you and know what you're about. But I feel like through the pandemic, even in Dubai as well, it's more there's a cult of new sort of beauty authorities and people going into the light, sort of more the forefront, that are about the natural, unfiltered beauty, and the standards are changing here, and I think we're here to make sure that happens as well. And make people feel comfortable and more. That's what I want Glossy Makeup to be about as well, like just a community, like women feeling comfortable and together, like, well, you'd have it in your purse, wouldn't you, like type thing. You put one of our products in your bag because we make you feel good, rather than I'm sort of like trying to really grow into that as well.
No,
for women.
that mindset is so important. So it's so great that someone like you is like trailblazing in this industry, honestly. Lauren, I mean, for you, who is pretty much running one of the biggest magazines in the region, how important is it for you to create that culture of the inner beauty? And, if there is, for example, a negative or a toxic environment, especially in the workplace, how would you handle that?
I think you have to lead by example. So for me, I've never fit into that whole crowd of the Gucci, and I mean, it's great, but I just don't fit into it. You know, I have 2 children. We are mindful of our expenses. I drive a Honda Pilot, which I love. And, you know, I'm never going to be that girl. And even if I could be that girl, I probably would put the money towards something else. So I've never fit into that, but somehow I've managed to just navigate my own little path, and I've drawn the right people to me. And I feel like I'm just cruising because I really don't care what anyone thinks. And
So good.
I'm not afraid of anybody. I have no problem going up to people and introducing myself. I will say now that I'm a beauty editor, it gives me a lot more credibility than just being like an Instagrammer. But, you know, I've always been like this. And so I think that especially in the magazine industry, I'm one of the older ones. Even though I'm a newbie, I'm one of the oldest ones. Our digital editor is only 23 years old. And while she amazes me because I was never mature as she was at 23, at the same time, I just lead with integrity, authenticity, and I have developed a really great name for myself in doing that. And I think it kind of speaks for itself, and it's given me a lot of opportunities that don't come towards other people who I think maybe are caught up more in that just incredible materialism. And, you know, if you look at someone and decide whether or not you're going to like them based on the bag they're carrying, I don't even want your energy near me. So that's just how I've always been, and I've just stayed away from all of that type of negativity.
No, and I love that generally as a society, that's what we're moving towards is authenticity and truly the people that are beautiful on the inside. So I think this is a fantastic way to wrap up the episode. Just moving forward, what are your hopes for the beauty industry moving forward and for generally beauty in society, Natasha?
Well, my hopes are to make it less filtered and, as you were saying, you know, a little bit here and there, but to be more sort of about education in beauty. I'm bringing a sustainability element also to the table. So just evolving into sending the right messaging out to girls and everyone, really, everybody and everyone, and just positive messages, vibes, and less toxic sort of behaviors.
I love that, and I have no doubt that you are truly on your way to do that. And Lauren, over to you. Any last notes for the listeners?
I'm just looking forward to the industry becoming more sustainable, for brands to move towards cruelty-free vegan products. And also, what else? Oh, I know. I would like to just see even more inclusion. I don't know exactly what that means right now, but I feel like we kind of get to one point where, okay, now we have foundations for everyone and everyone's thinking about it. And then all of a sudden there's another issue that pops up and people say, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. So I'd like to just see us moving towards more inclusion in the beauty industry.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. It's such a great conversation. We could honestly go on and on and on for hours. But you can actually follow these wonderful ladies on social media. If you'd like to share your handles, that would be fantastic.
My handle is Glossy Make Up and Glossy Lounge.
And my handle is my name, but it's a little funny because there's a bunch of Lauren O'Connells out there. So it's Lauren, Lauren .o.Connell, which is CONNELL.
Amazing. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for being here. And I cannot wait to see how the impact that you make on the industry moving forward. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
The KEF Connect podcast, you can check it out, kefholdings.com, and go to the KEF Connect page. We are also available on various streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, the Podbean podcast app, and more. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Until next time, we'll see you then.